Tyler Naquin did something that no Cleveland Guardian / Indian did in 100 years. Now he's trying to do something even harder, if you can believe that. That and spring debuts, spring breakouts, and the best Guardians pitching prospects have to offer on today's Locked On Guardians.
Tanner Bibee of the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right. Tyler Naquin is back in Cleveland, and not in the way you might think. When I heard that name, I thought, oh, well, they just have an outfielder injured. But that's not why he's back. We'll talk about Tyler Naquin being back in Cleveland. We'll talk spring debuts by Tanner Bibee, a big game from Bo Naylor. More Doug Nikhazy. I think we'll talk about the spring breakout game very briefly. And Jeff and I will finally do our long-awaited Cleveland prospect pitching draft. Best tools in the system. Before we get into that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com. I'm Justin Latta. I have been covering the Guardians minor league system since 2007. Formerly the editor-in-chief of Guardians Baseball Insider. Currently with the News Herald and the Morning Journal. Prospects Live next year at Cleveland.com, where I have seen Tyler Naquin as a prospect and many more that we'll talk about today.
I am Jeff Ellis. I'm convinced I'm never going to be healthy again with the way things are going this winter.
Chase the Lauder Ellis.
Apparently we were long lost siblings. I don't know. Is this like a twin situation? He got all the good, I got all the bad, and neither of us can be healthy. I wrote about prospects. I wrote about Chase the Lauder quite a bit at James Madison. I'm trying to think. DJ Brown, was that the James Madison pitcher when I was covering the minors?
Oh yeah, DJ Brown. I remember DJ Brown. He's a cop now.
Is he? He had some stuff. I thought he had a chance. But that's the type of deep stuff you will get on episodes of Locked On Guardians. I don't know how many. Is there another podcast in the history of Cleveland Guardians baseball that would reminisce about two people with DJ Brown? If anyone knows him, he was solid. He was a interesting prospect. We wish him well. But let's talk about someone who might have overlapped in the minors with DJ Brown.
Yeah, let's do that. And thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever you get podcasts. Shout out to the everydayers. Again, I know Carl, David, Matt, everyone we're talking with on the Insiders group. Join us over there. We'd appreciate that. We'd love to have those conversations with you.
YouTube comments. He's got
and I got to give a shout out to our good buddy Cheeks Malone too, who said that Jacob Cozart would be Bradley Zimmer and Austin Hedges' love baby if you combine the two of them. And that was a disturbing comment, but I had to look it up, and he's 100% right. Shout out to Cheeks Malone for like the best YouTube name too. We met Cheeks Malone at a Captain's game last year, and he introduced himself. Hey, Cheeks Malone, everydayer. Cracked my wife up. She still brings that up. So Cheeks Malone, you are remembered always in the Latta household. So we appreciate that. We appreciate all of our everydayers and our commenters, especially for that very vivid imagery. Speaking of very vivid imagery, you might remember Tyler Naquin is the guy who authored this moment, the inside the park home run that walked off the Blue Jays. I remember that very vividly because Jose Ramirez had a home run to tie the game off Roberto Osuna, and then Tyler Naquin followed it up with an inside the park home run. Thankfully, because BJ / Melvin Upton Jr. decided he was not going to back up the center fielder, very oddly. Great call by Tom Hamilton on that one, too. That was the first time a Cleveland Indian had a walk-off inside the park home run in over 100 years, almost 100 years to the day. So now Tyler Naquin is going to be doing something that's even harder than that, imagine. The Guardians brought him back
in that picture. It's just that's my big takeaway. It's like he looks like a baby.
I mean, Jeff, we're talking almost 10 years here. By this time next year, we'll be talking about honoring the 2016 team, the 10-year anniversary. It's been a long time. It happened very fast. You blink and it's going on. But so Tyler Naquin is not ready to be, on the field with Cody Allen and Andrew Miller and Brian Shaw throwing out ceremonial first pitches. He wants to throw a few pitches of his own.
That is Brian Shaw.
Brian Shaw will still be pitching next year. Let's be honest. It might not be for a major league team. It might be for God knows who. But Tyler Naquin's trying to come back as a pitcher. So the Guardians gave him a minor league contract on Thursday to come back as a pitcher. Tyler was going to turn 34 in April. This would be an unprecedented comeback of epic proportions. Jeff, you pointed out there's really no good examples for what he's done or doing that in terms of hitting the gap. Yeah. So real quickly before I let you explain that, if you're watching on YouTube, these screenshots are up on somewhere on Twitter too. I can put them elsewhere. But if you look at why Tyler Naquin is trying to come back as a pitcher, arm strength 2022, 94th percentile in all of baseball. 2021 arm strength, 98th percentile in all of baseball. 2020, 93rd, 99th percentile in all of baseball in arm strength. Did not even play baseball in 2024.
Coaching,
so,
right? I believe.
I think so. So he's always had the arm strength. That's never been an issue for him. But he has just not pitched yet. He hasn't played in a year any kind of baseball, at least professionally, and he's never pitched at the MLB or college level. So.
Yeah. When he was in the minors, I wish they had done like a throw off between him and Carlos Moncrief. Like those were the two at the same time.
Moncrief was a pitcher.
He was a pitcher. They were trying, they wanted him to be a pitcher, and it just didn't work out. And did he get to the majors as an outfielder? He got a cup of coffee, right? I think he made
with
it.
the Giants. He sure did.
Yeah, he did. But Moncrief, they really tried with a pitcher. They did the reverse. But those two in the minors, like, the talk about just absolute hoses. They were there at the same time. So what makes this? I know people bring up Anthony Gose and Rick Ankiel. I brought up Brooks Keshnick, if you want to go back. But what makes this kind of crazy is like Tim Tebow rightfully got dragged a little bit when he tried minor league baseball, and he did better than I expected him to do, if I'm being honest in that assessment. But it's like he hadn't played competitive baseball since high school. And then he was going into the minors, which is harder than college. And in this case with Naquin, the Guardians insider account was nice enough to tweet at us because I don't think he's pitched since high school. And apparently Naquin had told them that like he hadn't thrown since 2009 in high school, at least not competitively. So I've never seen someone have a 15-year layoff. And for anyone who's like, oh, it doesn't matter at all, he doesn't have any chance. They have a limited number of slots that they can sign guys to. There's a limited number of minor league players. So that this means by adding him,
170.
They use every single one of those spots. It's not like they don't use all 170. So they're not going to just throw, that on there for nothing. So there was something I would love a chance to have a conference call where they explain, like, have they seen him pitch? What made it happen? I would love to hear more on this story. I know you're probably coming here saying, well, we come to you for more, but this is a surprise on every level. And it is unprecedented to have that type of layoff. And I'm like, did they see him pitch? Have they seen him throw? What has he been doing? But yeah,
we'll see what happens there. God only knows where he's going to start. I'd have to imagine he's going to be an extended spring training
complex,
to start,
right? Yeah,
I would have to think that it's going to be a complex thing. We'll see. But
everything's complex anymore. Oh, different.
Different complex. One guy who will not be pitching in Arizona for much longer, he'll be pitching in Cleveland on opening day, hopefully, is Tanner Bibee. Made his 2025 debut for the Guardians on Thursday night. 3 innings, 37 pitches, 3 strikeouts, a walk. I'm sure he's not thrilled about, but fantastic, I would say, debut for Tanner in 2025. 92-94, not bad for his first outing. If you're looking on YouTube too, I have the screenshot. Induced vertical break on the fastball, 17 to 20 inches of induced vertical break. And again, we talked about this with Gavin Williams. Gets Garrett Gold territory right there. It's really good. Tanner's induced vertical break on his fastball in 2023 was about 16. So if he can get to 16, 17 with that, I think it's going to be really, really good for him this year coming up. Last year it dipped to 15. And his fastball run value went to -10. Teams hit 282, 476 slugging off of it. 2023 teams hit 243 and slugged 348 off of it. So if he gets that fastball back in terms of vertical movement, going to be a big deal for him. And the efficiency is good too. That's probably the one nitpick you can have about Tanner, I think, is sometimes his starts haven't always been very efficient. He gets knocked out earlier. This one was. So it's one start. It's just spring training. But I think everything went really well, and that's the kind of things you want to see from Tanner in that first outing, and all good signs there. Of course, we're going to cherry pick all the things we like that are good, and we're going to ignore all the things we like they don't like that are bad, right?
I mean, that's
what we do in spring training.
Confirmation bias, which is what spring training is all about. Let's be honest. Spring training is just there for everyone's confirmation bias, from the teams to the fans. That's the reason spring training exists, is to to confirm your confirmation bias.
Absolutely. Speaking of confirmation bias, 2 home runs for Bo Naylor on Thursday night. The first one I saw on video, and it was definitely a ball that did not need the Arizona wind and air to get out. He crushed that one, 103 miles an hour. It was an 0-2 slider from Ryan Nelson. Like to see that.
Good pitcher.
Yeah, he had a great year last year. I know you said you wanted to trade for him in this offseason. And then Bo followed that up with another home run, 98 miles an hour off the bat. That was not even a strike. That was off of a lesser name pitcher, but still good signs. We'll take that for Bo Naylor. I think it's not a jump to say that he is probably one of the 2 or 3 most critical players for the Guardians' success this season, which we'll probably discuss on a show
100%.
next week.
Those young players that hopefully will find that new level.
Yeah, he's definitely one of them they have to get from. And then I think we both believe he can do it. He's done it before.
Yes.
And then Doug Nikhazy, again, more confirmation bias. Jeff is all over this train now. It's funny that you and I have kind of flipped on this because I was the big Doug Nikhazy believer early on. And coming into the season, I was a little bit lower on him off of last season, even though things kind of improved for him. But now you're the high man on Doug Nikhazy. 6 strikeouts, 3 innings, 1 walk, 1 hit, 46 pitches. The Diamondbacks had a split squad lineup, so it wasn't a full lineup. And again, confirmation bias. But
he's doing everything right, though.
The more positive days you could stack in a row, absolutely. I think you're not out there walking guys, you're not having long innings, you're throwing strikes, you're getting guys to swing and miss. If you're not going to face the upper echelon of hitters in a lineup in spring training, you've got to dominate the backups, right? When those guys come in, you can't be giving up hits and walks to the backups. Like, if that's who you're going to be facing, you better blow them away. And that's what he's doing. So I think at the very least, you can take that away as a positive sign. All right. The Guardians released their everybody released their spring breakout roster. We'll talk about what that is next. And then Jeff and I will do our Guardians pitching prospect tools draft. Which Guardians prospects have the best pitches, the best command? We will debate that after this on Locked On Guardians. All right, check out the action on FanDuel. You can't bet on who's going to be making the Guardians roster out of spring training, and you can't bet you can't bet on the spring breakout game either. What you can bet on is the Cavaliers are 17-point favorites tonight against the Charlotte Hornets. Gotta love that. Tanner Bibee, a plus 3,500 on Cy Young. So you put $10 down on Tanner Bibee to win the Cy Young in 2025, you could come home with $350. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in on that than FanDuel. That is America's #1 sportsbook. With the FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout any game. So if you miss opening tip-off and you want to bet on that fourth quarter comeback, the Cavs will not need to beat Charlotte. You can stay on the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout and you know the Cavs are going to win that game, combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Bet on Tanner Bibee win the Cy Young. Bet on the Cavs tonight. I'm going to be doing it. Right now, if you're a new FanDuel customer, you can get in on the action with $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more on FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Once again, I want to thank you all for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day. Wherever it is you get podcasts, you know the drill. It's Apple, it's Spotify, it's Stitcher, it's Pocket Cast, it's Podcast Addict, free on Amazon, free on YouTube, all that kind of stuff. Appreciate you guys if you're hitting the bell to download every episode. Make sure you don't miss an episode, any videos. We're trying to put up more shorts on there. So if you want to get, some clips from the show, some original insights, I put up a video on the spring breakouts earlier today. So hit the bell so you never miss one of those. Auto download. If you're going on a plane anytime soon, if you're headed to spring training, auto download those episodes so you can listen offline and make sure you're never missing an episode too. It's my favorite half hour of the day that I get to spend with you, Jeff, and we get to spend with the listeners. So we appreciate you guys being here and making it our favorite half hour of the day, at least mine. Don't tell my wife that, but it's my favorite half hour of the day. Anyway.
Before we went to break, I was going to say one last thing on Nikhazy, just for the fun of making a random reference. So I'll just say, it was a great performance. Who doesn't matter who he faces. If you can be one thing, be efficient. And if you get the reference, comment below.
Be athletic. Support her if you're not an athlete. That's the one I took away from that. I don't have that. All right, Guardians spring breakout roster. Real quickly, let's explain this for people who maybe aren't aware, because not everybody is aware of spring breakout.
I had forgotten about it, 100%.
Forgot about it. So what this is, if you're not familiar with the spring breakout game, this is a thing that MLB came up with last year, where all the team's top prospects, not all, you could, some guys that are back end prospects, but they're all minor leaguers, and they get together in a prospect game versus another team's, top prospects. And it's a lot of fun. I think it's a great way to showcase, my favorite word, showcase, top prospects in each team's system throughout Major League Baseball. I love the idea. Last year, it was a lot of fun, even though the Guardians game was not televised, which was a mistake. This year, it is televised. So if you want to get on the action for this one, it is Friday. It's a week from today, Friday, March 14th at 8 p.m. You can get that game on Guardians TV. If you're already subscribing to that, it's on MLB TV as well. I think all spring training games are still free for anybody, and it's going to be on MLB Network if you get MLB Network. But some of the really fun names, Jeff, on this list, if you're watching on the screen, I got the rosters up, but you got Parker Messick on there, Zane Morehouse, Tugboat, Everybody Loves Matt Wilkinson, Austin Peterson, Cooper Ingle. You got your Travis Bazanas, your Angel Hinaus, Rafael
one of
Velasquez.
Our favorite sleepers in the entire system is in this game.
Yeah, Luis Morejo. Well, Austin Peterson is probably the name I was most excited about, truthfully. I think I would love to see the Guardians give him more exposure, because I think that if I think the extension on his delivery is really going to help him, and if he gets like even a little more on his fastball, he could be really a big breakout. We love the stuff. We'll talk more about him in the next segment.
We will, and I'll just say this again. I'm going to recommend the Sarah's piece from earlier this week that talked about Gavin Williams, because you can take all of that and apply it to Peterson, because he talks about Gavin Williams and his extension. Yeah, so
it's a big deal
out, because this team is all in on extension. All in.
They really are. Ben Lively. I'll bet you Tyler Naquin's going to have great extension on his.
Kobe Allard's the only guy who isn't like over a 6.6 in extent, or under a 6.6. Kobe Allard's like the one guy. That's because he's small.
Yeah. You and I are talking off air about Luis Morejo. I think that's a big deal about him being in this game. Yeah. I'll let you talk about Morejo a little bit, but I think it's really cool. Like I said, Peterson, obviously everyone loves Tugboat. Zane Morehouse is a guy we've picked out before. Yeah. I'm really excited. There's three lefties in this game, though, I want to talk about is, Messick really took off a little bit last year, but Josh Hartle, Michael Kennedy came over, and obviously the Spencer Horwitz flip to Pittsburgh from the Andres Jimenez trade from
how much
Toronto. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to get a good look at them. I'm also excited to get a look at Jackson Humphreys. I feel like Jackson Humphreys last year got a bad rap because the stuff it was really good in high school. I know you're not as high on him as I am.
It was always my concern.
Command's an issue, but I will say Humphreys last year was sick after in his first start. He had illness, and then he lost a bunch of weight, and his stuff kind of came apart. But I think the stuff is really good. If he's healthy and puts on a little bit of weight, I would say it's a guy who could rebound this year. But I think you made a good point off air about Luis Morejo and him being in this game too. And someone, I'm not saying we're predicting a breakout from him, but there are numbers we've seen from our friend Jeff Ponce in the past that suggest he's someone you should pay attention to.
And even the numbers that are available that I don't have Jeff Ponce's numbers. I wish I did, but like just even the other numbers, like the things I look for, he kept rising when I was doing prospect, right? Like he's my helium guy in this system, like for this year. Like if you're like, who's the helium guy? Who's the guy who could rise to the top 10 next year? It's Morejo. There's just a lot of positive things going. If you like power, hey, he could be your guy. In my most recent OTP league, he became an all-star. Unfortunately, only after I traded him. Very disappointing. I couldn't get him back. But I think he's the only player on this roster who did not who played below high A. So that's
Jason Churio's on the roster too, and he was supposed to play at high A.
He would have been
his wrist before he got promoted.
It just came down to health. Like Morejo is more of and again, he's like in my 20s. I don't want to sit there and make it sound. I don't want people to overhype a little bit, but he's fun. It's nice that there is someone really exciting and interesting at every level, and he's another fun player to watch. And we've talked about so many of these players so many times, so it's like I more want to focus like the Morejo and like Zane Morehouse is a sneaky relief prospect. Like he might end up like if you told me at the end of the year he was the number one relief prospect on this in the minors, I wouldn't be shocked by that.
sneak peek of this, I'm just finishing up my prospect rankings and my write-ups over at nextyearincleveland.substack.com. So I'll have that hopefully out over the weekend or maybe Monday. I should be wrapped up with everything. It's taking me longer than I wanted, but sneak peek on that. I did write up Zane Morehouse, and the video I was watching and the things I was thinking about and went back and read about him. Zane Morehouse, it would not shock me if Zane Morehouse has like a Cade Smith like arc. I think there's extension there. The fastball's quality, there's secondaries, and there's the ability to be coached up. I would not be surprised at all if Zane Morehouse has a Cade Smith like arc. I'm not saying it's going to happen in 2025 because it took Cade Smith a couple of years to be the Cade Smith now, because you and I didn't even, as much as we liked Cade Smith as a prospect, neither of us thought Cade Smith 2024 had that in him. Like we liked him, but he wasn't that good. So it might not take effect for Zane Morehouse in 2025, but by 2026, I could see Zane Morehouse having a very, very similar arc for his career. All right.
Yeah. Well, Jeff and I are going to do two quick tags on that, just real quick. One, the other thing with Zane Morehouse is something else we've seen with this team. He bounced around a lot of colleges, so he is undercoached in that regard. And I will say this, like, just to highlight the Cade Smith thing, you and I absolutely thought he should be protected, but we thought there was a chance he may not be protected heading into that offseason for the Rule 5. Just a small chance, but like we did discuss if it could happen. So just two quick tags there on those ideas to further reinforce your points.
Yeah. All right, so we're big on Zane Morehouse. We are big on some other pitchers in the system. It's not the pitching factory of days of old, but I got to say, there are some interesting pitchers in this system that I really like. We're gonna talk about the best pitches in the system. We're gonna draft the best pitches in the system from prospects coming up on today's Locked On Guardians. All right, so last week we did our position prospect tools draft. We talked about who had the best hit tool, the best power, speed, defense, arm, intangibles, all that good stuff. You can go back and listen to that from last week, or was that 2 weeks ago? Doing 5 Guardians episodes a week. Yeah, they blend together. We doing 5 Guardian shows a week, and it can all blend together. But how this works is you'll draft the best. Jeff and I will each draft fastball, a curveball, a slider, a changeup. Control, we might try to throw in some intangibles if we can, if we have time, if it makes sense. And essentially what happens is when you take one pitch from a single pitcher, any other pitch or tool from that pitcher is off the board completely. You can only draft one tool from one player at any given time. So, Jeff, I had the first pick in the position player version of this draft, so I'll be generous and give you the first pitch. So whose pitch is the best in the system you want to draft first, and why?
Well, see, I don't know if I want to go with like the best pitch in the entire system, or if I want to go for like the.
I think you should go with the best. Why not?
I don't know. Part of me also thinks like go with what's lacking. Like when I was writing down secondary pitches in my handy dandy little book here, it's like sliders all over the place. You know, there's multiple really good fastballs. So I think so. You know, the curveball and the changeup, I don't have as many that I'm super high on. I think when I'm looking through this, though, and so much debating he and hawing, I think I'm gonna do something here to completely off the board. I think, and I'm gonna go with Braylon Doughty's curveball, because there's not a lot of great curveballs, and I think it has a chance to be like a 65, maybe a 70. Like I really like that curveball. I really like the metrics on it. I really like what I've seen with it and his development. I think his curveball, like I only had Ryan Webb really as kind of my secondary curveball. I just didn't have a lot at that one. So I'm just going for a pitch that I think could be, it's going to be, I think, at least a plus. I think it's a 60 pretty easily. And with a lack of that in the system, and with him being a guy that has just so many traits, I'm going to jump on that.
Definitely the best curveball in the system, without a doubt. And I would not be. I don't think it's a jump to say that Braylon Doughty is the best pitching prospect in the system. I know he's a high schooler. I think he's the best pitching prospect in the system. I have to think it is.
You talk about those helium traits. He has all of them.
Yeah, he does. There's all those there. I think that's a great pick. I mean, you could easily pick his curveball. You could probably pick his slider.
Yeah, it is slider listed as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of things there. So that's a great pick. I think he's the best pitching prospect in the system. I think when you combine upside, all the intangibles we heard about him, absolutely. All right, since you went with the pick I was going to make, absolutely, that was the first thing I was going to go after. Is I'm just going to take Austin Peterson's command off the board here because
I debated that one because it's so good.
Yeah, Austin Peterson's command for me. I know Tugboat's out there, and I don't have to say that out loud to make you want to take that one because I know for command you'll take Tugboat if that's the route you want to go. But for me, Peterson is the best command in the system. He can throw his curveball, which is his worst pitch, I think, overall for strikes. The slider can get chases off the plate. I think it can get misses in the zone. The fastball command is really good, and I love the changeup too. I think the changeup has a lot of power to it. It's not like your typical. It's not like an Eli Morgan, Hunter Gaddis changeup. It's like it's not a splitter, but it's like a high-powered changeup that like looks like a two-seam and just has so much diversion to it. So I'm super excited about Peterson, and I think the command's going to make everything play up. I would love to see him be on the fringes of the zone a little bit more. I do have some worries that it's more of a control over command profile. It's not quite Shane Bieber-esque, but for me, it's definitely by far the best in the system outside of Tugboat.
I think that's fair. Like he was someone I strongly considered. Coming back to me, I'm going to hold off on command because I think I had 3 total names, and I think one of them is a guy who would not get selected in any other way. So when I'm going through this, the Espino factor is the one thing I debate so much. But I'm going to go maybe a little off board again, and I'm going to go with a slider here. I'm going to go with Joey Oki's slider when that is really going and breaking, and when you see, like, I don't know if Joey Oki is going to be a starter. I don't. Like, I think there's a world where he is a monster reliever with his fastball slider combo, but that slider might be right now the best pitch that they took in last year's draft.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair. I think you're right. Yeah, there's definitely some relief concern there, but again, one of my favorite picks going into the season last year, I was all over Joey Oki in high school, so that's a great pick, and I'm super excited for the slider. I was all over Joey Oki in high school. Yeah, that could get me in. We're not going to go there. Yeah, and not to mention too, if you want to talk about intangibles, Joey Oki, Joey Oki and Braylon Doughty are mega good athletes. Yeah. Doughty was a scratch golfer. I think was a field goal kicker. He could kick like a long field goal in high school. And Joey Oki was a standout basketball star at his high school too. So like we're talking guys who are premium athletes in high school who weren't focused on baseball. They were, and now that they're specializing, obviously, and they're in a system that's been known to develop pitching. Those two pitchers right there can be fantastically moving in the right direction. All right. Neither one of us has taken a fastball yet. I wonder if that says something about the Guardians farm system and fastballs. I think I'm going to go here with, since he so qualifies, I have to go with Joey Cantillo's changeup, I think. I don't know if there's another changeup in the system that is as good as Joey Cantillo's right now. Changeups are super hard to develop, and Joey Cantillo's to me is one of the best I've ever seen. It's a Vulcan changeup. I swear sometimes I can tell when he's going to throw it because I can see his arm angle drop a little bit. But even if hitters can pick that up, it still misses bats. It's the one pitch that makes me really feel like he is going to excel as a starter. The fastball, the extension we know is good. The curveball's come a long way for him, but the changeup is a bread and butter pitch. It just, I'm still very in on Joey Cantillo as a starter. I'm not ready to give that up, and the changeup's a big reason why.
No, I get that. He was like, if he was on the board, he would have been my next pick 100%. So for me, the reason I haven't taken a fastball pitcher is just because I wanted to just state it this way. It's because I think it's actually a pretty good group of fastball pitchers. I actually have a pretty long list of guys whose fastball I'm kind of high on. So as I go through and I'm looking, changeup, I have 3 names written down for that, and I think I'll go with Parker Messick as my changeup. Like,
it's a good one.
It's a good pitch. It's a solid one. I also have Rafe Schlesinger written down there, just even though because that was his bread and butter pitch in school. But Messick has done it at a higher level. And again, it's probably a foolish choice, honestly, there. But I just wanted to make sure that I'm getting, because I feel like I have a lot of good choices at fastball. I have quite a few for command. Changeups just get so light.
Yeah, changeup is a hard one to develop too. I guess you're right. Maybe fastball, there is some better ones on. Curveball's a hard one because you took the best one in the system. I think I'll just wait on curveball then because there's just not a lot of great options left. If I'm being honest
I have
here,
one guy written down.
Yeah, I have one guy written down for both of these. I hate to say it because it's such a lame pick, but I have to go with Andrew. We both agreed before this. We were taking Daniel Espino off the board. Someone might be saying, why haven't either of you guys drafted Espino's fastball or slider? And you easily could if you were doing this experiment in 2022 because it would be a no-doubter. None of us just really know what Daniel Espino's stuff is going to look like when and if he pitches again. Like we're talking like July, we're talking August, September for a Daniel Espino return. If everything goes well, and if it does, like we have no idea if the stuff is going to look like it did in 2022. You can hope, but there's no guarantees. So we both kind of agreed to take him off our boards and not rope him into this discussion. So for fastball, I think the one I'm really going to go with here is Andrew Walters. It's a pitch he threw almost exclusively in college. The Guardians have encouraged him and helped him with the slider. He does have a splitter. I'm still concerned that what's going on with Andrew Walters because he still hasn't pitched since February 24th, and he's not scheduled to pitch today on March 7th. So it's at some point here when Stephen Vogt gets healthy. I know he's battling a bug right now, but even Craig Albernaz, someone should ask him why he's not pitching. Very concerned about that, but it's legitimately might be the best fastball in the entire system because it gets so much ride and he throws at 97, 98, and it's very reminiscent of Emmanuel Clase. Not necessarily the movement because the cutter is different, but the fact that you can be so dominant with one pitch is why I'm taking that. And it only works as a reliever, obviously, when you have such one pitch that you dominate with, but Emmanuel Clase has shown us that can work when you throw one pitch most of the time. And I think that pitch is good enough with Andrew Walters, provided the velocity holds up.
Yeah. And like, honestly, it's like when I look at fastballs on my list, I have Mobley, who, could touch 99 out of high school. And then I've got Alaman and Donovan Zask are the other guys who I kind of had just written down because I think those are both because you can get pretty far. And I think in this case, I'll take Alaman's fastball. I think, in that group of guys I mentioned, he's an advanced arm. That fastball has been a really devastating pitch at points, and it's been kind of like his go-to.
He's got two of them. He's got a sinker and a four seam.
Yeah, I am going, and they're both good. That's the thing. Like, I've had positive reports on both, but I'm gonna go with the four seam in particular over the sinker right now.
Yeah, hopefully he can get healthy. His hernia doesn't seem like it'll be that big of a deal. Alaman missed 3 months last year with a latch strain. So, in terms of severity of injury, both Chase DeLauder and Franco Alaman, not injuries that are happening in spring training aren't as severe of what they incurred a year ago. So, again, more silver linings there.
Nick Enright hurt as well, who was also out for good chunks last year.
Nick Enright, you could have taken his fastball or his curveball because of the deception on there too. I guess I need a slider still in this system, and yeah, we're not going to go with Daniel Espino. I still need a curveball too. You took Joey Yoki's slider. Braylon Dowdy's off the board. Boy, this is a tough one. You know who's got a really interesting slider? I'm going to go actually with Rafe Schlesinger. It's not the highest rated pitch in the system in terms of pitch quality, but the metrics on that slider in college were really, really good. And coming at the arm angle he has, I think it has a chance to be a really nasty pitch. I don't know if Rafe Schlesinger, I'd assume the Guardians are going to develop him as a starter this year. I'd love to talk to the new farm director about that, but I'd imagine he's going to start this year. I would put him in as a starter right now and see if he can do it, but I love the arm angle and the action on that pitch, and I think it's got a chance to be a devastating pitch, whether he's a starter or reliever. It probably has a better chance with him as a reliever, but I'm excited to see what he can do with that pitch this year against minor league hitters.
I'm gonna go a little off board with command. I'm gonna go with Josh Hartle. Now
That
the
is a
second
little
half
off
of
board.
it, I realized because like last year it wasn't on display as much, but when he was working, and I think this team can fix him and get him back, like his control and command were what made him a dominant pitcher as a sophomore. It felt like he was overthrowing, maybe trying to push too hard in his draft year, but he was his, MLB had him as the top college pitcher in that draft class in the fall. And a lot of that was because of his command and his control. And it's the other names I have, like I had Denholm down, which is more controlled in command, and Tugboat. But I think I've just seen Hartle do in the SEC is a little more. I have more faith in that than Tugboat at low A. I think both have the ability, but I'm a big Hartle guy, and I think that you get him back to where he was, it's going to be a plus offering.
You're buying the dip a little bit there on Josh Hartle. I agree. I think if this is a good system to get him back on track, I agree with you. I think that's a great buy low for the Guardians, and it might not be a top of the rotation type arm. Another good athlete. He may not be a top of the rotation type arm, but he's definitely a guy that I think this is a great franchise to bring him back to where he was, and could be a kind of back of the rotation arm. I guess for the last pick, then I'm probably going to go with Chase Mobley's curveball. You mentioned his fastball, but he's got a really nice tight curveball that he could spin pretty well. Of all the high school picks last year, I was a little bit, him and Cameron Sullivan were maybe not as high on boards, or people thought Mobley, they were raw. A lot of people thought Mobley was going to get to college, but this is a great curveball, and it goes off the fastball really good. I can't wait to see what he does this year. And obviously Cleveland really valued Chase Mobley because they paid him a lot of money as a 10th rounder, the most money they ever paid a 10th rounder, breaking their previous record of Jacob Zibin in 2022. So clearly they believe in Chase Mobley. Another guy I'd also take for intangibles too. I'm not going to do intangibles because we're out of time, but guy who's really persevered through a lot, I think, in his young life. And I'm excited to see what he can do reaching his dream as a pro player. And give me the curveball. I'm going to buy kind of a high risk stock on Mobley's curveball. I could have gone with Nikhazy. I could have gone, Nikhazy doesn't have the curveball he used to have in college because he's changed his arm slot. I could have gone with Eric Sabrowski, who's got a good one.
I even thought about
I've always liked Nick Enright's. Yeah, because the extension and the ride. Yeah, I mean Jackson Humphreys, I like his curveball. There are not a lot of great curveballs in the system. I think you're right. It's Braylon Doughty, and then it's 50 feet, and then it's everybody else in the system. As fake Billy Bean Brad Pitt once said.
Because curveballs are tricky, right? Like we talked about the great thing about the change is they're kind of, agnostic about righties versus lefties. Like a curveball is maybe not as valuable because it is very much dependent on, who you're throwing to, right? Like, the break.
It depends on the shape. It depends on the shape. If it's like a 12-6, you get a lot of leeway on that. If it's a curveball that kind of spins into lefties' bats, it's a little bit harder. But it really depends on the shape, and it's a tight breaker for Chase Mobley. So
it feels like a pitch that's, I want to say, like it just feels like it's not often developed.
I've got above average grades across the board for Chase Mobley and all of his pitches. I mean, his fastball for number one, but I've got him as average, above average, and everything. It's obviously just a high risk profile, and I was not drafting him for command. All right, let us know what you think of the pitchers we drafted. Let us know if you want to hear more about these guys. We could do some other videos on these guys specifically, what we like, what we don't like, some names we didn't mention that you want to hear about. Let us know how you're feeling about Tyler Naquin becoming a Cleveland baseball player once again. Let us know if you'll be watching the spring breakout game next week. I will be. Hopefully I'll be chatting with our insiders during the game. I'll be sitting here tweeting about it, posting about it all kinds of places. So if you want to get in on the action and you want to have a live conversation during the spring breakout game next Friday, become an insider. Join us. The link is on the screen. It's in your episode show description too. Become an insider. We can chat about the spring breakout game live next Friday and all things Guardians.
I want to thank you for joining us this week again. Thank you to everyone who is an everydayer, all of our insiders, everyone who helps keep the.
You're good. I was just going to say next week we'll be back. We'll do Monday morning headlines. We'll talk about the action from the weekend. We are going to have a guest on Tuesday to talk about the Detroit Tigers. Some of you wanted division previews, so we will do those. If you're into that, let us know how excited you are to talk about the rest of the division. That'll gauge whether or not we're going to do more of those. And then next week, I think we'll do the show on what's the path to the Guardians division title this year and hopefully World Series. We'll also get into position previews as there is only 3 weeks left of spring training.
Can't be over soon enough. Thank you for joining us. Remember to rate and review, download, do your part. It helps. Hit the bell, hit the like, leave a comment. I guess I haven't done this in a while. Who is your favorite baseball player from when you were young? Thank you for joining us, and go Guardians, go.